There's something that's bothering me. Cars in movies.
In general.
There's one thing that I hate is when they flip over forward. And then there's another one that we saw in this one where they run into each other and they explode for no reason.
Right. Well, that's...
like a Simpsons episode.
Exactly. And the thing is, Simpsons is just... they're just mocking the way that it's been for years. As cars explode. And cars don't explode.
Well, in Simpsons, everything explodes.
Well, exactly. Well, that's... I mean, cars goes over.
I remember a bike going off a cliff one time and it exploded.
That's right. Exactly. It's like a skateboard explodes on The Simpsons. Well, the fact is that cars don't just go over a cliff and. Well, here's the worst: is when the car goes over the cliff and then explodes in the air. Well, why did that explode?
Yes,
really?
Yes.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's
particle in the air.
It's just a visual medium, and but. I have to tell you a story.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Storytime.
It's Storytime with Miq.
Storytime with Miq.
Storytime with Miq.
Storytime with Miq. Storytime with Miq. Storytime with Miq.
I was working on a film called Warrior of Waverly Street.
Wow.
That I remembered that is actually a pretty impressive thing. But we were actually filming the inside of a big giant head.
Really?
Yes, we are. It was we were doing second unit, and we're in there with the director, and basically the rest of the film has been shot except for two pieces. One piece is the interior of the big giant head, which was enormous. It was about the size of a desk up on its side, and this kid, Star Kid, is supposed to be inside. I think the film was actually released as Star Kid, and you're seeing the things that are going on inside of this mask that he's wearing. But in order to film it, we made the effects guys had made a really big one, and so. In the end, being as I was one of the more experienced people on the crew, I wound up operating an awful lot of what was going on because the effects guys had to go on to something else. And they said, well, here's the controls for the big giant head, and so we were filming. And while we were filming, there was a little second unit, which was
a second unit.
A second unit. Believe me, you have no idea how many times this kind of thing gets going. At the end of the film, you're just trying to get as much footage as you can. And the second unit, we're supposed to film the cop car dunking into the kids' pool. Okay? So the guy who was the second unit director and the stunt coordinator, he gets up there and he calls back, and we're on the radio and and he calls back and he goes, we're gonna need a Jaws of Life standing by for this stunt. And we're all kind of looking at each other and go, okay, well, Jaws of Life, and we'll send it up there. And they're filming 3 miles away somewhere up in the Glendale Hills. And basically, we set up a pool for them, and they were going to run this police car. We had a hedge, and behind the hedge is a ramp, and he's going to go up the ramp and just land. That's all he has to do.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's something that could happen by accident, right?
Yeah. And
so...
Well, if there's a ramp and a hedge, I guess anybody
a ramp and a hedge and a ramp and a hedge, right? And I've got an old Dodge, and this is going to happen. So we hear from them back and forth on the radio, and and finally at 2, there comes this weird radio silence, and we don't hear from them again. And we're filming away, and we're really intensely into this head, and we're and finally about 5 o'clock at night, this PA comes in, and he just looks like he had that kind of hangdog kind of look to him, like he'd drawn the short straw, and so he walked in and he hands us a tape of what they had shot in second unit. So we all take a break and we're standing around the monitor and in the tape runs, and you see the shot of the pool, and they did a couple of setup shots for it, with kids running around and the kids running away from the pool,
Right,
and all the rest of that. And finally it's time for the big shot. And this barely experienced stunt coordinator, you see everybody roll, and you see the car coming down, and it hits the curb, which they hadn't put a little ramp on the curb, so it immediately flattened the tires. And so he goes over the curb. Now he's got flat tires, and he's approaching the ramp.
Oh gosh!
But it's cutting his speed way down. And finally, he goes up the ramp, but at this point, he's going probably about 15 miles an hour, right? And I mean, literally, you could run faster than he was going. And he goes, and he just kind of barely gets over the hedge. Immediately on the other side of the hedge, it lands all four tires down. Now, the idea was that he was going to land in the middle of the pool, right? Yeah. And he goes, and all four tires are flat, so he just kind of like, he lands like this, and he rolls about another 20 feet to where the pool is, and then he just taps the side of the pool, and the water runs out. And and it's the end of the tape, and we're all like looking at the TV, and we kind of like looking around at each other, and I said, well, can we release the jaws of life now?
Right.
So there was that. You know what? It's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how is that important to Jigsaw? Let's bring it back around. No.
How is it important? Oh, how is it important in Jigsaw? Same gag. Those two cars, there's an emergency, and obviously they ran the two cars at each other at the ramp, and kind of like dink. When they just dink at each other, they just exploded a gas bomb. So it kind of went.
Well, the shot almost looked to me like two Matchbox cars that were held on strings. They just kind of tapped them together. That's what it looked like to me. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So
stunt.
Okay.
Stunt.
This is more important to me than other things we talked about. But stunts, I'm tired of these stunts. Why? Okay.
Why do things?
What I really like are those stunts that were in the Blues Brothers, for example.
Right.
They're realistic. So cop cars hitting ramps or whatever, and then rolling over, flying. But
stunts have
it made sense, like physically.
Stunts have grown. I'll tell you, I did a film just before I came out of LA. I went in and I helped coordinate just a reshoot. And in this reshoot, there was supposed to be a bunch of wrestling guys that were fighting in the middle of a hospital set, right? And when we first got there, we got there with the art department truck, which is a little tiny truck, and we fit in all of our equipment, which is just the typical to make it look like a hospital. And then the stunt people showed up, and they had an entire rigging truck that came with another truck. They had a rigging truck, and they had another truck that came that was just full of pipes and trusses. And in a matter of like 3 hours, they built trusses on the corner of everything on the outside of the set and put pipes everywhere. And the idea is what they were doing was every time they were going to have a fight in there with all these, wrestlers. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to pull everybody real hard. And, and when somebody went jump, they'd jump and they would rig them and pull. And so absolutely every movement that they were making was super exaggerated and that's what our stunts are now.
Yeah.
Is you can't hit somebody and make it look like what we want to think or what Hollywood thinks that we want to see a hit look like. So somebody gets hit and they get jerked all the way across the stage,
right?
And that's become that exaggerated look.
Well, I guess it's not more the exaggerated. I'm talking about the stuff that doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, but that's what's happening.
Like flipping a car over on the front end.
But that's what
when
I'm
it
saying.
hits like a ramp.
That's the same.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, because what you're looking at is just the most bang you can get for your buck.
Right.
The most.
Everything has to explode too.
Everything has to explode. Everything has to flip.
They should start doing that when people hit each other.
It just explode.
Yeah, too much alcohol.
Bam!
Boom.
Oh!
I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that.